Hi, colleagues. I am here with another little just-in-time video to talk to you about reading logs. A loaded conversation for sure. I'm sure we all have different opinions or things that we might want to say about reading logs. I want to remind us that the purpose of a reading log is to track one's reading growth, is to set goals moving forward, is to be able to say, what's my data? What have I been doing as a reader? Think that sometimes in the spirit of it being an easy way to hold students accountable and it being a really visible way to see what they're reading and when they're reading, sometimes in schools, in my own very classroom at a time, we have actually turned the reading log into something that it was not intended to be. So the first thing I want to share before I go ahead and jump into some practical strategies for making the most of reading logs is to remind us what reading logs are not. Reading logs are not intended to be parent communication. There are other ways we can be communicating with parents, but I do know that having the parents sign the log is just one way that it will backfire, either because parents are just going to sign it and it might not be truthful, but also because it starts to become something that students see are visible by the people in their life that judge them and by the people in their life that evaluate them. And so that pushes them to lie or to change the stats that they record. Sometimes we punish students. That's a harsh term, but we might say, stay in from this, or you need to do this because you didn't do your reading log. And I would love for us to go beyond that and kind of get that out of the mind. And then last but not least, we really don't want to use the reading log as a place for evaluation. With all three of these things, we do it with good intention, but when we bring these three things in, they are the very reason why people start to have debates around reading logs. I think we would all agree that there is power in being able to reflect on one's reading. I just recorded a video on stamina and volume, and it's imperative to track your reading growth so that you can do that. But I am going to share some ways that you can do that while avoiding the opposite, while avoiding making it a punitive tool or a tool that students aren't going to be truthful on. So the first thing is to just consider, maybe instead of a log where students are recording straight down, you might think more of, what's my monthly reading plan? What's my reading diet look like this month? Maybe I'm going to make a plan ahead, or maybe I'm going to reflect in the end. But when students make a plan and want to look at a monthly reading goal, it starts to change the way that they look at it. So they might write down the day and then check it off when they get there, but they're making more of a calendar to visually see the year, or see the month, instead of in each individual day. So consider a monthly calendar instead of a daily record keeper in that way. The next thing that you might consider with reading logs is to just think of ways to make it visible without students turning the log into the teacher. And so this might be when students come in the morning, their reading logs are out and open and they're walking around and doing a gallery walk, that they're sharing with a partner. What did you read last night? So the more that kids are making their logs visible to each other, the more that you'll be able to see in and kind of scratch that teacher evaluation itch. But also you'll see that students are starting to be more truthful and honest with it. The other thing to keep in mind is you don't always have to be logging. So have certain weeks where it's a week of data collection. This week, we're going to track our reading. So it's okay if maybe you took a week off or 2 weeks off, but now let's really track this week. So maybe it's 1 week a month, maybe it's 1 month a quarter, but think of it being logging being something that could be on and off. Of course, devil's advocate might say that then it's not a routine. You'll do what works for you, but these are all just different ways to reconsider the very nature of what a reading log is. Another thing is, this goes with the making the reading log visible. Use the reading log as a topic of conversation in a reading conference. So if I walk over and I go to confer with Megan, I might say, Megan, get out your reading log. How has reading been going for you? And so if I can take a look at her reading log in a conference, it's a nice way to make it visible. It's a nice way for me as a teacher to see what's in there. And I think it's really nice to be able to confer with students around their reading plan. I do think at the end of a month or the end of a unit, it's so powerful for students to go back, to look back and see just how much they've read so that they can plan forward. So use the reading log as a way for students to look back, to say, how many books did I read during this unit? How many pages did I read this week? How many books, how many books in this genre have I read so far this year? So using it as a real tool for reflection, but then also goal setting moving forward. And then last but not least, I do think we want to reconsider or to start considering the modalities and the choice inside of reading logs. I know that as teachers, there are certain things that we need to do that are standard, just so that our own sanity when we're spinning 25 plates in our classroom can be upheld. That said, I do know that when there's buy-in for students because they can use a different mode or they have choice in what it looks like, that it goes a long way. So maybe as the year progresses, you can name out the purpose of the reading log to track our growth, to see how many books we've read, to set goals moving forward. And you can give students different options, whether it be tracking on a Google form, whether it be tracking on an app, whether it be tracking on a calendar or just a page in their notebooks. So I hope all of these things just give you some ideas and hopefully just a reminder as to what the reading log is and how it can be a powerful tool in the Reading Workshop classroom. Thanks, everybody.